So welcome to Fly Tying Thursday. I almost said Friday. Um, Tonight we'll be tying flies that are appropriate size and profile to be effective for pike and other toothy critters. Some of the newer articulated flies by Kelly Gallup, Gunnar Bramer, and Blaine Chocolate are good patterns to learn and experiment with for pike. Uh, they're they're all pretty big, but I haven't tied them yet. Um, First fly that I would choose out of what I have would be Lefty's Deceiver. Um, it was designed by American fly fisherman, outdoor writer, photographer, and casting instructor Bernard Lefty Cray from Maryland. After serving in World War II, he was one of 3 U.S. servicemen that were infected with anthrax, and he was the only one to survive it. They named the strain of anthrax after, with his initials, BVK-1 is what they named the strain. Lefty created several rods for TFO, including the Lefty Cray series, and he also created a BVK series named for the strain of anthrax he survived. He received many honors, including the Lifetime Achievement Award by the American Sport Fishing Association, the Lifetime Contribution Award by North American Fly Tackle Trade Association. He's in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, of course. In 1997, he was named Angler of the Year by Fly Rod and Reel magazine. 2003, he was inducted into the International Game Fish Association Hall of Fame. He's served a number of years as senior advisor to Trout Unlimited and Federation of Fly Fishers, and he received the Mac Brown Award. He has written about 30 books and countless magazine articles. Al Beatty was Lefty was a friend and mentor of yours. So do you have any stories or information to add?
Yeah, I thought of a couple that about Lefty. He was a person who was always teaching. It didn't seem to make any difference. The message was always there in some kind of a teaching way. And let me share with you two examples. The first was in the mid '80s. I was having some trouble getting published. It wasn't happening, and I had a stack of rejection letters and about 15 different magazine articles that just got sent back and never published. And I was lamenting to Lefty and Gary LaFontaine about that fact. And Lefty says, "Well, kid, I don't even need to look at your writing. I can tell you what's wrong with it." Oh, he says, "Yeah, you're not writing to your audience. You're probably writing like a college professor." He says, "Remember, in the outdoor industry, you're writing to kids and old men. You gotta hit both and do it well, or something like that." He says, "You want to write to the 6th grade level, but do a good job of it." And LaFontaine stood there for a minute. He says, "I disagree with you, Lefty. I think it should be the 8th grade level. But anyway, you need to write to that." So in some of our writing since, I have put wording to that piece of advice from Lefty, and I call it, you write to an audience of 8 to 88. And I give you this example. You have a kid living on one side of the street and a college professor on the other side, and they both want to learn how to put dubbing on a hook. That college professor isn't going to care one darn bit if it's explained to him in sixth grade language, just so he can learn how to put it on the hook. However, if you do college professor level, a kid across the street won't have a clue what you're talking about. That's the one story. Now, another story is one that will apply to all of your fishing. And I'll set this up. Lefty and I were at a show in the Netherlands, in Holland. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but anyway, he and I had been wandering around together, and we ended up on the river. He says, "You know how to tell natural polarization?" I said, "Huh?" Put my sunglasses on, I guess, my polarized sunglasses. He says, "No, kid, let me show you something." He held his hand up like that, then he held the other hand up like that. You notice that they form an L. He says, "You get to the body of water, you turn towards the sun, and point your trigger finger right at the sun. Then turn around 90 degrees and follow your thumb this way or this way. And you're looking at natural polarization. You can see right into the water without polarized glasses. And that was just a light switch that went on for me. I mean, I didn't know that. And like I said, this was in the real early 90s. And when I retired from corporate America and became a full-time guide in Montana, I started watching things. I mean, because one of the things about being on the river with clients is you got a lot of time to think while they're fishing and you're keep an eye on things. And I started noticing the eagles, and they would circle around, and all of a sudden they would get on a glide path and go down and catch a fish. I started noticing that guide path was always 90 degrees to the sun, one way or the other. So the critters even knew about natural polarization. And I could go on with 1,000 stories about Lefty Kreh and things that I learned from him, but that's just two of them.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So tonight, the first one we're going to tie is Lefty's Deceiver. And Lefty invented it in the 1950s as a saltwater streamer that would be easy to cast in the wind and would not foul around the bend of the hook. The original Lefty's Deceiver was tied in all white to represent smelt that were a common striped bass forage. The fly tyers since then have recreated the pattern in a variety of colors. Probably one of the most popular nowadays is chartreuse and white. And as we get into the construction, you'll see what keeps that tail from fouling. It's basically that these hackles that are normally tied on streamers, instead of tying them toward the front of the hook where they could wrap around and foul around the hook, they're actually tied in as a tail and extend into the back. So I'm going to switch over to the materials camera here. Since we're talking about pike and you know, at least back in the day, just about every pike lure that you found was red and white. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to use white bucktail, red bucktail, and then white and red saddle hackle. In the earlier Lefty's Deceivers, he would put on some peacock herl over the top of it as kind of a dark crest over the top. But finding that the delicate peacock herl would break off after a few casts, he quit with that. I like the look of it, and if the first couple casts give it that nice dark bar across the top, that kind of looks like a lot more minnow-y type of fish. Another good color that would be good for pike would probably be like yellow and black. Anything that would have a good contrast. And then of course, you know, chartreuse and white, like I said, is probably the most popular. So for a hook, I normally don't give you like a brand or a style of a hook. I usually say, you know, a certain size of a nymph hook or a dry fly hook or whatever, and you can just kind of normally pick your own type of hook. I think the original was a Mustad 34007. This one I have is from Netcraft, and I can't get into my drawer because of where the laptop is to get the actual model number, but there's a Daiichi 2546, Dairiki 930, and an Umpqua U401. They're all equivalents of what that original hook was. This is a size 2, kind of a relatively short shank. It's not like a 3 or 4x long, and
You want
nice
to
and
switch
shiny.
the camera, Mike?
I thought I did.
No, we still got materials. There
Here
you
we
go.
are. I'll zoom in more on the hook right now, but I'll probably have to change it as the fly starts to develop here. Right there. So even though this is a bigger fly, I'm going to put my reading glasses on and get started. So I'm going to lay down a thread base. I'm starting quite a ways back from the eye because with all the deer hair and the materials you're tying on, it can be kind of easy to crowd the hook. I'm going to wrap that back to about the end of the shank here. And then I'm going to tie on the saddle hackles. So I'm just going to pick two that are about two white ones that are about the same shape. I've got these two white ones. And then I'll pick two red ones to give them a little bit of contrast that are both about the same shape. Take these two. Another thing you can do with these is add maybe some grizzly saddle hackle in there. Give it a little different profile. When you tie in the tail, you want it to be the length of the tail a little bit longer than the actual hook. So I'm going to go like a hook and a half maybe. And then that'll be hanging off the back. So I'm going to strip all of this over the bin here. Strip it back a little ways and then cut the stems. Now, since those naturally curve down, I'm going to go ahead and keep them that way. I think that'll give it a nice look. And just to keep them from rolling, I want to grab a little bit of that hackle along with it and give it a few good wraps and see if I was successful. So that looks pretty good. Then I'll do the same with the red. I'll take them and face them together. Actually, I'm gonna split the white ones anyway, but just to get them stripped the same, I'm gonna line up the tips like that. Go with about the same length there, and then I'm gonna strip off the hackles. And then I'm going to take one on each side. So I'll start on the off side. I'll give it that same curve happens to be for both of these. So wrap that back till I get a little bit of the hackle to hold it flat against that. And then take this one, go the same length. And that's the tail. I'm going to wrap that forward, and then I'm going to come in with the original was silver mylar tinsel. I like, and most people nowadays will use some kind of a sparkle braid. This is in a pearl color. I'll just take off a nice long piece, about 9 or 5 inches. And I'll tie that down along the top of the hook, nice and tight. And then wrap forward. Now I'll take that body material and wrap it forward. This is pretty strong stuff, so it should last a few fish. with a northern's teeth being like razors. A walleye's teeth are more like a dog. They're sharp, but they're round. Where a pike's tooth is sharp and razor um, sharp on the sides. So I just lost my braid there. So they're going to tear up the bucktail and the feathers anyway. But you might as well use something nice and strong, and this gives it a good flash. So the next material is bucktail. I'm going to take a very common mistake with these is to flare the hair too much and to use too much hair. So I'm going to take a pretty sparse amount. Cut them close to the tail there. And then these are all pretty clean hair on the tip. I don't have any real long ones. I'm just going to come up about probably 2/3 of the way and just take off any shorter hairs. And then I want this to go back into the tail where the longest ones are maybe right out to that tip. So I want it to be right about there. And I'm going to tie this back a little ways from the eye. So right about there. And I want this to be kind of up and a little bit on my side. So I'm going to take a few wraps there and then make sure it's kind of a little bit on that side. That looks good. So those wraps I made there weren't real tight, so they're not flaring the hair out real bad. Now, I'll take some real tight wraps a little bit past that original tie-in point. That gives me that buffer zone that Al talks about. And I'll cut them at an angle there, so that gives me a tapered front end when I tie that down. Those are pretty secured. I'm not going to bother with covering those butt ends yet. Just to cut down on my thread bulk. I'll grab about a similar size clump of bucktail. Do the same thing. Those tips are all pretty good. Come up about 1/3 of the way from the tips and take out any of the short ones. Line that up about the same. And now I'm trying to hold it so that that's going to be the upper half of the hook, but off to the side. So those are kind of split almost like a V a little bit and toward the top of the hook like that. Take a couple more tight wraps here and cut it at a sharp angle. So now I am going to just go ahead and tie those down the eye and then come back to that tie-in point right there. Now I'm going to take some red bucktail. About the same size clump. And there's a couple of real long ones. This red has a lot more shorter fibers there. Strip those out. Measure it across the top. I want the tips to be right about where the white ones are. And that'll go right on top of that V then that you created with the white bucktail. Take a few looser wraps and then make sure that's where it needs to be. Looks pretty good. Then give it some tighter wraps, more toward the eye. Really cinch that down. Cut it at an angle. And then we're almost done. I've got a few long ones in there that are going to mess with the eye. If I don't cut my thread, I can get those out of there. Hold up my head a little bit. One more thing I want to do, like I said, for the original did this, and what I like to use for if I do put that peacock across the top, this bag looks kind of nasty because it's so old, but peacock swords, there's all different sizes of these of the hurls on these swords, but I have a few of them that are pretty long that aren't used for my zug bugs or the little crappie jigs and stuff that I use that for. So I'm just going to take about 3 of them and just let those lay over the top here. That looks good. Right across the top. I'll go ahead and cut the butts there. And then just finish off the head. Give it a nice cone-shaped head. You'll see some, I don't think the original had a head, or I mean, sorry, had an eye painted on, but you will see some people do that. So I'm toward the back of the head. And so I'm going to make wraps toward the eye for my whip finish. Then tighten that up good. Cut the thread. And then I'll put some head cement on it. Any questions?
I have one.
What do you got, Mike?
Can you use like head cement or UV stuff on the body to strengthen it?
No, like I said, I think that that sparkle braid is pretty tough stuff.
Okay.
And like I said, the feathers and the deer hair are going to probably be cut up before that body will start to come loose. You certainly could, if you wanted to even use like in the original, use some kind of a tinsel. You could use even a holographic tinsel,
Okay.
silver or gold. And I would definitely, that stuff's kind of
Oh yeah.
soft. It kind of seems to tear pretty easily. So I definitely would put some UV over the top of that.
That would work good for crappie too in different colors.
Yeah, and you certainly could tie these down, maybe to a size 6. When you start getting too small of a hook, I think the materials are going to be difficult to form the fly and not, be out of proportion with everything. So,
Nice.
all right. We had something in the chat. Oh, just a thanks to Al for the comments.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So I'll put this over here to dry. I did another one with some flash added and put a hackle on the front. You don't see too many people do that. But that's also with the red and white. And then I showed you that chartreuse one. So let me get some of this material out of the way for now.
This is primarily a stillwater fish or a stillwater fly, Mike.
It doesn't have to be.
You can use it in a stream
I'm sure you could.
as a streamer.
There's a lot of there's a whole lot of trout flies that are longer flies with bucktail.
Yeah.
That would probably
We,
simulate.
we've also tied it with, in the smaller sizes down to like a 12 in a long shank hook using a sparse calf tail instead of the bucktail.
Right, that'd be a great idea. I did some smaller Mickey fins with calf tail in red and yellow calf tail.
I like that.
So the next one I'm going to do is
I have
a,
a question.
yeah, hit me.
Can you use soft fiber stuff instead of bucktail or calf's tail?
Sure. I mean, it's a style of a fly, but it is a pattern. So you start getting into using synthetics and that kind of stuff, then you start getting away from it being a deceiver. But
Okay.
why not use? You can always substitute materials. So
Okay.
you could even put some marabou in the tail instead of the saddle hackles, and you could certainly use like some craft fur kind of stuff for the in place of the bucktail, as long as it was long enough for whatever size hook you were doing.
I got the soft fiber stuff.
Oh yeah,
Good.
yeah, that should work good too. I would maybe taper the ends of it somewhat.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Next one is called a wire wing streamer. And if you've seen Al's video that where he did it with soft hackle, whiting soft hackle with chickaboo. Switch over to the materials here. Whoop. Not that. I'm not a material. So what I think I'll do tonight is this. It's a whiting soft hackle with chickaboo. It's a Cote de Leon, like it says medium ginger. To me, it's a real nice rusty brown, and I love the color of that. I'll show you a few of these flies, but I'll probably use that. I have tied it also with this cheap Indian neck. I think these are about $6 to $10. But it does have some soft hackle feathers you can use on the base of it. This is just a hen cape from whiting in gray, and I tie it with that too, and it's pretty much just that and thread and a little bit of technique, and wire. So let me switch to the camera. So this is the one that I'll do tonight. It looks real similar to what's that? It's the articulated fly with the shanks and everything.
They're the game changer, maybe?
Game changer. It's like a short game changer kind of, but it doesn't have all the bulk from all those shanks and everything else. It's a really lightweight fly, a little color for the body, and I bet it'd be pretty strong. So that's using that soft tackle with chickaboo. Here's one with ringneck pheasant. Using those back feathers. I think that's a pretty nice look. That I think could substitute like for a little young bluegill or something like that. With the profile and then the coloring there.
You like the way that sucks down in the water and works its way through the water column.
And then this was using way too big of a feather from a Reeves pheasant. The tail didn't turn out how I liked it. I don't really care for the shape of that tail there. There's just too big of a feather. But then on a Reeves pheasant, they have some shoulder feathers that are a little bit darker. And I thought that gave kind of a cool collar there. But this is a better one I like with the Reeves pheasant. It really has a lot of the fluffy marabou stuff in there. And that I think is one of the keys of this fly. Al showed his in the tank, and I invite you to what I'll do is maybe I'll send John the link to that video where Al tied this fly, and he shows it in his tank.
I've got one in the tank. If you want to show it
Oh, you
later,
do?
we can switch over and let me get the tank turned on while you're tying.
Okay, we'll do that. So that just shows that anything that's a longer soft hackle, once you see the process, should be able to use just about anything. So I'm going to take this cape. I try to do it on the materials to kind of show you some of it here. Switch my light over. And I want to grab a couple of these soft hackles that are if you see how wide these feathers are, they're pretty wide. I want them to be a little bit more narrow, and in here toward the center, these are a little bit more narrow. I see two of them here that are about a good pair. If you can see
Mike,
that.
is that one of the hackles that I gave you last weekend?
No, this is something I bought when I believe I got this when Hook and Hackle was kind of having their big sale when they were stopping with fly tying materials.
It kind of looks like those hackles that we got that were called marabou.
Right. So this is the chickaboo right here.
Yeah.
This is like the rump part that curls underneath the chicken. This is real soft marabou stuff, and this is really nice on a lot of streamers. But what you're looking for is a couple of soft hackles that maybe have a little bit of this fluff here. And then I want another one, maybe a little smaller, to use for a collar. So try to select that real quick. All right. I've got my two and that one. Now, let me clear this out of the way. Now, I'm going to take a piece of copper wire, about 9 or 5 inches. Probably closer to 5 would be plenty. And I'm going to just double it. So put the ends together and just kind of make a little loop on the end there. Now I'm going to take my two soft hackles. And you can do this two different ways. You can have the tips splaying outward. These actually curve. There it is. Have them splaying outward like that. Would probably give the tail more movement. I kind of like the looks of the together like that. And I like how that makes the body look. And you'll see when we get into it. So I'm going to take that part for the tail. And then I'm going to take this wire, put it right there at the base of that part that I stripped off. And then I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to put one on top and one on bottom. So I basically have wire and then the two hackle stems and then a wire. And it gets a little fiddly at first. It'd probably help if I stripped off some of this stuff down here. But let me do that first so I don't end up with a mess here. I'm going to take just this. There's a after shaft feather. And then just some of this at the very base to get it out of my way. All right, I'm going to lay those together again and establish my tip section there. That nice and even. And then hold my wire again. After you've done a few of these, it becomes pretty quick. I've rolled through all those different examples in about hour and a half. So you get that situated to where that's right at the base of that front part, and then split the hackles with the wire. Then right where that wire is, I'm going to take a hackle pliers. This one I like to use best. It's got the rubber pad on one side. You could probably just about use any hackle pliers. You want to grab it there where that wire is at the base of those feathers. I'll switch cameras. Back over to here. Add a little more light here. Now, I'm going to make sure I have that all set up the way I'm supposed to have it. So wire and then two feathers and then the wire. And then I'll put that in my vise. Put it in the jaws of my vise. Screw down the thing so it's tight, and I'll just clamp that down. Turn the vise toward me a little bit. Now, sometimes if you pull too tight on this, you could break the hackle stem. So just kind of give it a good snug there. And then, got a good angle here. Take your rotary and just start to twist. So about 7 turns. And then since the hackle stems are real narrow, the wire is going to have a tendency to twist up pretty tight up here toward the front. So if you grab that real tight, about a 1/2 inch back, take about 3 or 4 more wraps. Now you're twisting the wire that's past your thumb there. And then go back about another 1/2 inch and do another 3 or 4. Now that's those 2 hackle stems twisted up with the wire then. Then you can just kind of stroke those back. And so that's the piece you're going to use for the body. So I'll set that aside. That part's been made. And I'll put a hook in. I'm using a size 6, 3X long hook. And I'm going to start with, this is a 210 denier. It's pretty big. I'm kind of using it like floss. It's, I think they call it fluorescent red orange. I'm going to start with black.
Mike, you might want to refocus a little bit, Mike. You're a little bit out of
Okay.
focus.
Thank you. I think it's okay. That looks better.
Looking good.
Okay. I'm going to start my thread a little ways back here, just with the black here. And that's a black 140 denier. And then I'm going to actually bring this up and hang it on a material clip. Get it out of my way. Now I'm going to take this bright red, start it up here. And make pretty much touching turns up the body here. Every once in a while, spin my thread to flatten it out. This 210 denier is real good for smaller hooks if you want like a floss kind of a application. Spins real nice and flat. I'm going to do that. And then maybe throw a half hitch on it. Then I'll take that black and I'll twist it, give it a good twist clockwise as if I was looking down on it. Then cord it up. And then I'll just take that forward like this. And wrap a nice contrasting rib. And then I can just do a couple hitches and half hitches because that'll get wrapped over. Get that black out of the way. So now I'm going to actually go back a little ways. I don't like how that last turn was anyway, but I want my wing to be tied in right about there. I'm going to take my wing to where the tail's oriented good. And then I'm just going to go ahead and tie that in real tight there. About 5 wraps, fold it up, make a couple wraps, couple over, and then I'll go ahead and cut that out of the way with the back part of my scissors, since it has wire in it. And I'll just kind of pinch those wires down. Now, I'm going to take that other, with these Coq de Leon hackles, you know what I might do? Instead of using that, because those hackles don't have a lot of fluff on them. The part that has the fluff on those feathers, the stem is real stiff, where on a regular hen hackle, I think I'll use one of these bigger ones off of this Indian neck. I think it'd be proportional. And I think I'd give it a little nice collar to it. So if I can break it off. So this way I can get a stem down here that's a little bit pliable, but it's still into the softer marabou looking stuff. Not very much though. So I'm going to tie that in right back here. Take a wrap forward, come around the back, and then tie it down. Plenty of room to flip that stem off. Grab it with the hackle pliers that I had earlier. And then just kind of wrap this like a regular soft hackle. You can get quite a few wraps here coming forward. I'll cut that tip. I still have a little bit of room. So I'm going to give it one more. Try to find one that's a little bit more fluffy here. I'll do the same thing around back. Whoops. I got it a little bit away from me there, so let me do that again. I've worked my vise quite a ways away from me after doing that wire. I'm reaching. Should be enough. And make a few wraps with that good marabou stuff in there too. Whoops. Now I do notice on Al's soft hackle that he has, that does have a lot more marabou fluff on some usable stem. And some hackles that on different parts of the saddle that you're, or wherever you're getting them off of, they'll have different proportions. Then I'm just going to make a red head here and whip finish. The only thing is with using that heavier thread, you just have to really watch your thread control, make sure you don't overdo it. And so that's a wire wing.
Sweet fly.
I'll put a little bit of, I'll use some UV this time. There it comes. And there's a wire wing. I'll switch over to Al and show the is that a little off focus? I think it's focusing on the rocks.
Yeah, let me pull it back just a little bit here. Couldn't see it on screen, and let's see, here we go. And of course, mine is tied out of a different colored stuff than yours. It's a
Right.
soft tackle stickaboo, but anyway, you can see it's got a lot of motion in the water.
Right. Now, is yours kind of a bullet head?
I put a bullet head on that one. Yeah, it's just
Right.
I do everything under the sun, and that one I just wrapped a hackle in front and pulled it back and put a couple of wraps on it. And the bullet head was made out of the pulled back hackle, and then I put some glue over that. Just an experiment, and did that today. And anyway,
All right. Well, experiment with different feathers. I will say the ringneck pheasant that did have a lot more of the. Let me find it. That did have a lot more of the fluff, and I think that's kind of key to this. You don't want just
it is,
that.
but
You
I
wanna
sure
have
like
some of
that
that
color,
fluff.
the one you tied tonight. My God, that is a great sculpin color.
Oh yeah. I think a baby bass or you know, just it's real fishy looking. I like that stuff. Do we have time for a zonker, or does everyone want to go eat?
I'm going to have to run, Mike, but I really appreciate you showing the wire wing and also giving me a chance to talk about a friend that has long since passed, Lefty Cray.
Yeah, it's um, it's nice to hear the stories like that, and that's one of the things I enjoy the most out of doing these things is I do research on whoever created them, and it's just really neat to learn a lot of that history. But really appreciate this fly. It was a I forget the story you were telling when one of those things where you dreamed it up in the middle of the night or something. But I just really like the movement on that, and it's really unique. Definitely going to try some of those this spring.
Well, I've been using them off and on for a lot of years, and like I said, it was one of those patterns that I had high hopes for it becoming a success, and it's kind of like the whip finish tool that I sent you. It was a great idea that just was probably at the wrong time.
Right. All right. Well, again, appreciate it, and thanks for the stories too.
Hey, you betcha. And everyone, good night. Paul down in Australia, good day.
Thanks, Al. Have a tight line now.
Good night now.
So does anybody want to zonker, or are we going to call it quits?
For me alone, Mike, I've got all night. I don't have anything to do.
Oh,
I've got
you got to
another
go,
hour
David.
and-
David.
I'm retired. I got nothing else to do.
I can hang around for another fly.
All right. I don't think it'd take that long.
Besides, Star Trek isn't on for another hour.
What's that? I'm just teasing. All right. Let's see here. So materials. Clean up all my mess here. Move the things. All right. For the zonker, we've got, I don't have one to show you, but we'll make one. It's basically a hook, and we use this lead tape. It's called zonker tape. I think that's what it's sold as. But it's basically a lead tape about a little less than an inch wide, and then the one side of it is sticky. And so I'll show you how we fold that around the hook, kind of make a minnow shape. And then the most common materials to use for the body is just this Mylar braid tubing, and it comes on it with a cotton core in the center. So you just cut a piece you're going to use and then strip that cotton out and place that over the lead. So silver, gold, I have a pearl. And then recently I found gold and silver holographic at Bass Pro, I think it was. For the back of the fly is zonker strips. And so this is just rabbit fur. This is a cross cut. If you look at it, the fur is, if you lay it down like that, the fur is coming off to the side. So these strips were cut crossways instead of along with the material. Here's some chartreuse that's like cut the regular way. There's all
Size
different
zonker
colors:
strips?
natural, rabbit, olive, black.
What size
Um,
zonkers are those, strips are those, Mike?
I think
was
some of
gonna
them
be
might
the-
be Magnum, but most of them are
Yeah.
just the standard
Okay.
strips. And I use these for crappie jigs, actually, mostly nowadays. But that's a good color with chartreuse and orange with some black barring. Colors are pretty much anything you can find, and you can cut your own if you have maybe some rabbit skins and you want to just turn it over to the hide side, cut along there with a razor blade, and make your own. You can make it out of say you have some muskrat or beaver or possum or kangaroo or whatever. You just turn it over the hide side and just cut a slice. You can also do them smaller and use pine squirrel. This is a pine squirrel skin that's zonked, cut into the strips. And so you just take a strip long enough for the fly and use that. So what color do we want to do? How about like a natural? I think those look the best. Yeah, I can find a good strip though.
What about the yellow one and make it a shrimp?
This one? We'll use that one and gold. I think that'd look good with gold, wouldn't it? I'm not home.
I like that.
All right. So I'll switch over back over to the vise. And first thing I'm actually going to do is take this lead strip. And you can do it this way if the hook shank is, the right size. Otherwise, you'd have to like fold it over this way, which is probably what I'm gonna have to do on this one. I'm gonna take just about the shank. So from the barb of the hook to just behind the eye, and just kind of mark that with my thumb. And then I'll take some bad scissors and cut a strip off of that. And then I'll just take this paper off the back and fold it over. I don't want to crowd the eye. Just fold it over to where it's stuck together like that. And now you're saying that's going to look stupid. But I can't find my curved scissors. I'll use these. So first thing you want to do is you really don't want to foul, you don't want to like block the gap of the hook. Kind of take an angle up like that. Maybe take a little bit more of that off at the at the tail end there. And then I'll take the hook out of the vise to do this. Just kind of give it a kind of a curved fish body thing. A little heavier in the front.
Used to make actual lures like that with tin can tops.
With what?
Tin can tops. You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
we used to get the tops off the tin cans or the pull tabs. Use those.
right. So for the, I've got a little bit of this kind of shredded, so let me, I've got a bigger scissors down in here. Why don't you use that? Beefier scissors here. So I'll cut it more than long enough piece here. And then I'll pull that cotton core out of the center. So it's kind of like the finger puzzle thing, where if you pull from this end, it's not wanting to come out, but if you go back here, then you can pull it out pretty easy. I'll cut off all that shaggy stuff just to get it out of my way. So now I have this tube, basically, of that Mylar. So first, I better put on my thread. Since I have it, I'm going to go ahead and use this orange stuff I had. Get that on there pretty secure. I think I might even give it a little shot of just a touch of UV. Kind of make sure it doesn't get loose. All right. Now I'm going to take my, whoops, sorry about that. Take my tube here and I'm going to just slide it right over that minnow shape. And you can just kind of tease this a little bit. Because I want it to go out past the bend of the hook a little ways. So I'm teasing it, moving it up to the thread a little bit more. Maybe it'd be better to even take a bodkin. Tease that out a little better. Spin it around. About right in here. Okay, so I got a little tuft sticking out of the back there. And I'm just going to take that thread and do some nice tight wraps. Tie that down. Now, if you're careful, you can do an exaggerated whip finish here.
That's where those bigger whip finish tools come in handy.
Absolutely. Okay. Pull that nice and tight. So I want that little bit of gold off the tail there like that. And then for the front, I'll feel where the eye is here. That loose, maybe take a little bit more off of there. Lift it. There we go. Now I'm going to take my black thread. I'll use this same 140 that I had earlier. Mount that thread. And then I'll grab the top and then come around the bottom and just grab all that chenille a bit at a time. There we go.
Huh.
There's my minnow shape. Then take the zonker strip and actually got this cut backwards. Since I use this, like I said, for crappie jigs, I'll go ahead and waste that bottom end. I can use that. Now, a lot of people like to take that piece of hide on the bottom there and give it a kind of a sharp end there. Lay that over the top. And mark where I want it to be cut. Cut that loose. I can pull a little bit of, I pulled a little bit of the fur from that front part there. I'm going to start at the front. Tie this off. And then bulk up that head pretty good here. Cover up that rabbit strip. There we go. Come back toward the back. I'll go ahead and whip finish that. Cut it loose. Then moisten my fingers a little. And then separate that hair. Then take a few good wraps back here. And then we'll try to do that whip finish number again. I'm starting to end up with a mess, so I'm going to quit with 3. And then I'll put a little bit of UV on the bottom of that. Hold that real tight. Thread. And I'll straighten that out. Wrapped a little bit of it into the thread there. My thread coming loose. It is. I'm going to hit it with some UV and then cut that thread off. Whoops. Here it is. All right. Drop a UV. Blast it. And that shouldn't come undone.
Huh.
Tell me that's not a pike fly or a walleye fly.
Nice looking
Not
fly.
a pike fly. That's what you told me to say, wasn't it?
What's that? Yeah, I paid you.
Very nice. That you've got that scheduled to be the next fly in the beginner series, right, Mike?
No, the zug bug. Another Z word.
The what? Which one?
Zug bug.
What's this one?
This is zonker.
Zonker. Okay. I'm sorry. I keep getting those letters of the alphabet mixed up.
Another Z word.
Put some flash on each side and it becomes a flathead fly.
They also have a meat whistle. I think that's what it's called. Slump buster.
Yeah.
Slump buster. Meat whistle is what the guy's going to do next week. Gary Begley.
Did you color that zonker strip or did it come that way?
It came that way. They come in, like white and blue, all kinds of different colors. I like it with those barred stripes on there.
Pretty cool.
Right
And those
there.
are some neat flies tonight.
Yeah, and I think if I ever do venture out in the cold to do pike fishing, I think I'll try those three for sure.
Oh.
Again, they work on trout as well, like big trout.
Not to do the tagging, Mike.
What's that?
When are you going to go tag the pike?
That was supposed to be next Thursday.
Okay.
But I think they're saying that the lakes aren't melting as quickly as they thought they were going to.
Yeah.
So it may be I think they'll still do Wanahoo the week after next. And then they'll move Flanagan to the week, I think it's like the 23rd,
Okay.
which
friend
is
of mine,
Tim Flagler Day.
Yeah, Kurt Seaver's a good friend of mine is supposed to be out on one of them. I can't remember which it is, but he was going to go tag.
By the way, this zonker fly pattern was created by Dan Byford of Steamboat Springs, Colorado in 1975. And then the slump buster is pretty similar, and that was created by John Barr. So that's all the trivia I got on this one. There's not much to find. There sure are a lot of variations of this. Great stuff.
And it looks like it's fun to tie.
Yeah, it is. It's not really not that bad. I think, like John's saying, if I had a bigger whip finish tool like the BD Special.
Alice got those.
Yeah. That's a little bigger of a bite there. I think that might actually take care of it. They make bigger whip finishers just for that very purpose, for the deeper bites. But I
Al
usually
has some. Alice got some because I bought one from him just recently.
Yeah, and then that's a good reason to try to master the hand whip finish, because you could just you could just flip that around pretty easily by hand.
Hey Mike, I've never used any UV. Are you using the thick or thin, wet torch and stuff like that?
Okay, let me shut off this heater. So let me flip the camera back around. I have this is what I first started using. So I got Loon. I think it might have even come in like a set. It was thick and flow. Flow is the thinner stuff, and then thick, I mean it's really thick. If you're trying to glob it on like a scud back or something like that. Then Al was experimenting with UV glues, and he found it's actually called so it's a 3D printer resin.
Yeah.
And it's clear. He put on there the UV wavelength is 405 nanometers or whatever. But the key is this stuff with the Loon light that comes with it. This stuff hardens so much quicker than the Zoom stuff does. The Loon stuff, I mean.
Yeah, I've got, if anybody wants any of that, and it does come in different colors, by the way.
Right. You've got some gray.
I got gray and I've also got the clear. I probably got enough to supply everybody for the next millennia.
Also, I think Al, like, he bought this stuff by the quart, I think,
That's what I did, yeah. Fake.
and put it into smaller bottles. But the bottle that he gave me, it didn't have a good like thin nozzle or whatever. It's more like a dropper, and it worked okay. But then I bought some other bottles. I think they're in here. I bought a couple of these applicator bottles, I think they call them. They come with different nozzles, but the lid on the ones that I bought fit perfectly on this bottle that Al gave me. And the good thing about this lid is it fits the Loon nozzles. So the Loon kit came with like 2 or 3 extra nozzles. So I just screwed that into the base of this.
I
Like
got
that.
these right here, Mike, from Amazon for about 10 cents a pop. And they've got a nice needle point on them.
Right.
And they work really well.
So I don't know if Al still has any to sell, but we might be able to get some more from him.
If he doesn't, I do.
Okay.
I'll give it to you if you want it.
And if you got those bottles, John,
Yeah, I do. Just that.
I think it's nice for like a fly like this for a nice shiny head like that. I think that looks really good. And then if you do have a catastrophe, you can put some on there and you know, that's basically epoxy. It's not gonna come loose. So like where I had my thread come loose, my whip
That's the
finish
small
didn't.
bottle.
So that's about here, let me
That's UV wavelength 405 nanometers. It's 500 grams. But it's-
Wow.
I don't know. That's about a pint.
yeah,
And that's a small bottle. That's the clear one. The
Yep.
gray bottle, I made a mistake and it's twice.
I got the big one. I got the big one for $30.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
there you go.
Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that a
I
clear
mean,
one?
like this bottle right here will probably last me for another 20 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very fast.
This will last a while.
Yeah.
I gotta go feed my bride, guys. I'm gonna drop off, but great stuff. Really
Yep.
nice flies.
Thank
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, we'll see you. I'm gonna drop out too.
Good night,
Paul.
Mike.